Good evening, friends. Today we'll start with the data analysis techniques and what is data analysis, what kind of data analysis techniques we use, what kind of data mining techniques we have, and what is the process of the data analysis. So these are the 3 to 4 things which we're gonna complete today. I'll start with the data analysis. What is data analysis? Data analysis is defined as a process of cleaning, transforming, and modeling the data to discover useful information for business decision making. When we have the data is mostly untidy. It's not correct. There are a lot of issues with the data. So what we do is that we clean the data, we transform the data, and then we model the data as per our business requirements and create the decision for our business based out of the data. The purpose of data analysis is to extract useful information from data and taking the decision based upon the data analysis. So data analysis, if the business is not growing, then we have to look back and acknowledge our mistakes and make a plan again without repeating those mistakes. So data analysis is all about creating the data, polishing the data, and transforming the data as per the business requirements. So we'll start with the data mining techniques. So if I talk about the data mining techniques, there are 7 data mining techniques which are available. They are the tracking pattern, classification, association, outlier detection, clustering, regression, prediction. Guys, do make a note here. We'll talk about the outlier detection separately. It will be a completely different class. Okay, it will be completely a different class. We'll talk about the outlier detection separately. This is a very important topic, guys. So outlier detection, we find out the outliers, we find out the IQR, interquartile range, and after finding the outliers, initially we plot the data, on scatter plot, or you can use box plot. Either you use the scatter plot on the box plot and to find out the outliers, and then you remove the outlier. Okay, so what we do is that outlier detection, we have to find out what kind of outlier it is. Is it a multivariate outlier or univariate outlier? Why the outlier has happened? What is the issue for the outlier? And what kind of test we do to find out the outlier? Like initially we do the z-test. Okay, you can also do principal component analysis for outlier. So for outlier you can do z-score. You see the z-score. You can do the PCA. You can do the PCA or z-score to find out the outliers. So outlier, we can do a PCA, z-score to see the outlier. Also there are several other techniques for detecting the outlier and plotting the outlier, like as I said, the scatter plot, as mentioned there, the scatter plot, box plot, remove the outlier, I find out the IQR range. It's 1.5 into IQR. Sometimes you might have 2.5, so 1.5, 2.5, so you have to find out what is the range. Okay, so this is the outlier. So for outlier, I'll have a completely a separate class. Okay, so I'm not going to talk about the outlier in this video. We'll talk about the data mining techniques. As I said, there are 7 data mining techniques. So I'll start with the tracking pattern. Now, what is data mining? Data mining is the process of looking at the large banks of information to generate new information. Okay, so that is data mining. It refers to the extraction of the new data, but that doesn't the case. Instead, we will look into the data which is already available, and then we have to find out the different patterns of the data. So I have already created one video where I have, that is the data science on the machine learning algorithms. So I'm not going into that deep, I'm not going into that complexity, but I'll just give you a brief about the classification association. I have already discussed the classification, association, the clustering and regression, prediction. So I have already discussed in that video, but that is related to the data science. However, in data analysis, in data mining techniques, we start with the tracking pattern. So tracking pattern, it is the basic, one of the most basic techniques in data mining is to learn and to recognize the pattern in the data set. So what we do is that we understand what kind of recognition is available in the data, what's happening to the regular interval or the flow of a certain variable over the time. For example, we might see that our sales of a certain product seems to spike just before the holidays, or notice that warmer weather drives more people to our website. So tracking pattern is the process where we find out how the data is performing, what are the different variables that are available, how the data is performing based on those patterns. And next is the classification. I've already discussed about the classification algorithm, but over here we are not talking about the algorithm. We'll just talk about the classification, which is a more complex data mining technique that forces us to collect the various attributes together into categories. Okay, you can draw the further conclusion based on those categories. That's the classification. Outlier I've already explained. Next, the association. Association is also related to tracking the pattern, but is more specific to dependently linked variable. We'll look for the specific events or attributes that are highly correlated with another event or attribute. For example, we might notice that when our customer buy a specific item, they also buy a second. I have already explained the association, where somebody buys tea and coffee. Along with the tea and coffee, he or she is also buying the sugar. That's an association. We have the market basket analysis. Okay, so association example would be market basket analysis. So market basket analysis is the association, whereas the classification is the customer segmentation, CLV, customer segmenting. We are classifying certain data points based on their behavior. So yes, so these are the data points, we are separating them. So, okay, these are our data points. So this is how we work. Alright, I'm sorry guys, there might be some issues with the video because I do not have that technology, advanced technology, to upload videos on YouTube. So I'm just doing it all by myself. Number 4 is outlier. We have already discussed what outlier detection is. In many cases, you might see that the overreaching pattern cannot give us some clear understanding of the data set. Okay, our data, we need to find out the anomalies or outliers in the data. So so we'll need to investigate this spike and see what drove it. Why there are certain points which are very outside. So if I have to give you an example, I'll just give you an example of the outlier over here. This is our y, this is x. Okay, so these are the data points we have. Now you might have certain data points here, okay, so these are all outliers. Okay, so this is the generic data if I have to draw the curve, but however these are the outliers which are giving. Now if I consider these data points, we might not get a proper picture. So what we have to do, we have to remove these outliers. Okay, so there's the process of removing the outliers. We'll talk about those things later. Removing the anomalies and the outliers is very important in the data analysis. Okay, next we'll talk about the clustering. So clustering is again, it's similar to it's very similar to the classification. Again, clustering is very similar to the classification, but involves a grouping of the chunks of the data together based on their similarities. For example, we might choose to cluster different demographics based on the audience. So again, that's a similar thing like the customer segmentation. Okay, we cluster a data behavior. Based on the data behavior, what we do is that we give the focus to a particular data set, and we focus on those data set. Suppose based on the different demographics of our audience into different packets based on how much disposable income they have or how often they tend to shop at our store. So that is the clustering we have. Next is the regression. I have already explained you about the regression. Like suppose I need to find out the price of the car based on the market variables, like the whether it's a car is made of diesel, what kind of cc engine they have, what is the body makeup, it's a sedan or it's a hatchback, it's SUV. So based on that we predict, we do the regression. Find out regression use it primarily a form of planning and modeling. It is used to identify the likelihood whether a certain variable can give a certain prediction or not. Okay. So regression main focus for the regression is to find out the relationship between two or more variables in a given data set. So if our x and y, we have the x and y, so based on the behavior of the x we can find out the y. So that's the regression. And number 7 is the prediction. So prediction is one of the most valuable data mining techniques, since it helps you to find out project the type of data you'll see in the future. Okay, it helps into recognizing and understanding the historical trend of the data. Okay, so customers' credit history is one of the prediction thing, like we predict what kind of customers we have. So this is the data mining techniques we have. Now, if I start with the types of data analysis, I've already explained you about what the data analysis is all about. Now, what type of data analysis you might face? Okay, so data analysis, we have the text analysis, statistical analysis, the diagnostic analysis, predictive analysis, and descriptive analysis. So what is text analysis? Text analysis is also referred to as a data mining. It's just a method to discover a pattern in a large data set using databases or data mining tools. It helps to transform raw data into business information. So this is about the data text analysis. Text analysis is also a part of the data mining. So we use all the tracking pattern, classification techniques and association to have the text analysis. So over the large chunk of data, based on the data performance and data mining techniques, we do the text analysis. Next is statistical analysis. Statistical analysis, where this is the base thing is that what happens by using a past data. How the data is performing, what is the variance, what is the standard deviation, what is the mean, median, mode, how the data is performing, if the data is diagonally skewed or not, is a bell-shaped data or not. So our data has to be bell-shaped data. I'll explain you what the bell-shaped data. These are data. So data has to be in a bell shape. So let me draw what the data bell-shaped data is. This is a bell-shaped data. This is perfect data. Okay, rightly. Yeah. So this is the data. This is a bell-shaped data. Rightly skewed data. Okay, the data is rightly skewed. Not rightly skewed. I'm not talking about the right skewed or left skewed. I'm just giving you the data is skewed perfectly. The skewness of the data is perfect. That's what I'm trying to say. So it helps to include the collection, analysis, and interpretation of the data. So statistical analysis. There are two categories of analysis: descriptive analysis and inferential analysis. Now, descriptive analysis helps you to analyze the complete data or sample of summarized numerical data. It also shows the mean and deviation for the continuous data and percentage frequencies of categorical data. So that's a descriptive, and there is inferential data as well. Inferential analysis. It analyzes the sample from the complete data, and this type of analysis you can find a different conclusion from same data by selecting different samples. So that's the inferential. I'll give you a brief note of the statistical analysis as well. Okay, what kind of the probability, what is the probabilistic model we use, what is the difference between probability and the odds ratio. So we'll talk about all those things when we do the statistical analysis. Now the diagnostic analysis shows why it happened. We do the diagnostic based on the behavior of the data. Why it happened, what is the problem with the data, if there are any missing values in the data or not. So how to identify the behavior pattern of the data. So that's how the diagnostic analysis works. Next, the predictive. As the name suggests, predictive, we try to predict what happens when the data performs. So what is the future of the data? What is likely to be the prediction based on the data behaviors? What can be the salary if the expenses are this? So based on these different attributes and variables, we find out the predictions. So it gives you the future outcomes, as simple as that. Now next is the prescriptive. Prescriptive analysis combines the insight from all the previous analysis to determine which action to take in a current problem into decision. Prescriptive analysis is like based on the current scenario, you understand the past records, and then you prescribe what kind of text mining technique you will use in prescriptive analysis. Data analysis process. These are the process are for the data analysis, like data gathering, requirement gathering, data collection, data cleaning, data analysis, data interpretation, and data visualization. For data visualization, guys, I would recommend you to use Tableau. Okay, I'll just make a note of it. For data visualization, I would recommend you to use Tableau. Tableau is one of the data visualization techniques which is very important, and they're very useful as well. So I'll cover one more video on extensively on Tableau, why we are using Tableau, what are the advantages we have Tableau, what kind of data can be loaded in Tableau, what are the live connection, extract connection, what is the dimensions and measures in Tableau, how can you connect Tableau with the SQL, the initial SQL. We'll talk about all those things, different kind of graphs and charts in Tableau, Gantt chart, tree, heat map. Sometimes in Tableau we do not use certain like do not chart. We don't use the 3D chart, the pie chart. So we'll talk about all the charts in Tableau. When to use this kind of chart in Tableau. What are the different LODs in Tableau? Okay, what are the dimensions and measure? What are the different types of filters in Tableau? So we'll talk about everything on Tableau. We'll cover extensively. It's a huge topic. That will help you to understand the data visualization. Okay. In Tableau, there's called scatter plot, box plot. I have already told you about the box plot and scatter plot. We can also do that in Tableau. What are the different LODs in Tableau? Okay, dimensions, measures. So we'll talk about all those things. Tableau server as well. How can you do the best practices in Tableau? How can you minimize the load on Tableau? So we'll talk about all those things. So data requirement gathering, first step is to understand why you are doing the data analysis, what kind of data we have, what kind of problem is associated, what kind of the business solutions we are providing based on the data. So you have to understand all these things, why I am doing this analysis, what business benefit, what kind of problem we have. You have to classify all those things. So then we start with the data collection of the data, like from how the data is stored. Is it like data integrated or the data segregated, how the different data blending, joining. So all these things would be there, how you are collecting the data, from which sources the data is stored, what are the different premises, is it an cloud based. So you have to understand all those things, data collection process. So you have to collect the data from the SQL, you have to write the SQL queries to get the data modified. Okay. Next is the data cleaning. Data cleaning is a step useful, very useful step. You have to understand, you have to make sure that how data is not, as I said in the beginning, the data is not at all tidy. It's very untidy data. So you have to make it tidy. You have to use certain things which you you have to use certain things in the data. There are a lot of things in the data. You don't need everything. So you have to make sure that you clean the certain rows, tables, you modify the data in R. R is very useful programming language for the data cleaning. There are some certain missing values are there. There are certain duplicates are there. So you have to write R programming to reduce them, to remove them. Okay. So data which is collected may contain duplicate records, white spaces or errors. The data should be clean and error free. That's what I said. So data cleaning is a very important step. We do it in R programming. Python is also there. So Valido is one of the leading program in Python. We use the data cleaning. Data analysis. Yeah, once the data is clean, you understood what kind of variables is required. You understand the data performance, data modeling, what kind of data you have. Then you can start the analysis. So analysis, once the data is collected, clean and processed, it is ready for the analysis. As you manipulate the data, you will find the exact information you need. Okay, then you can collect the data, and during this phase you can use the different analysis tools and software to do the data analysis. And next, the data interpretation. After analyzing the data, it's finally time to interpret your result. You can choose the different way to communicate the data analysis. You can use a simple words or maybe a table or the chart. You can result of the data. So you can interpret, you can provide a significance interpretation of the data, how the data is performing, what kind of outcome we got, how it can help to the business. Suppose if you are working in agile you can use the project management software to interpret the different tools and how the project is performing. So you can, though it's not related to the data interpretation, but that will be always helpful. It will go parallelly. And next, the data visualization. As I said, Tableau is very important tool. So data visualization is very important because it will help you to project your end results to the client. So you can create the different stories how the data is performing. Suppose you are working on the sales results. So based on the sales results, so for the each region, east, west, north, south, you can create the different charts, different performance, and then you can create a story on the Tableau. So Tableau is very helpful tool. So it's one of the software. I use Tableau 2020.1. That's the latest version, and it's very dynamic in nature. So it also helps you to create the automation report, and you can create a lot of the parameters in Tableau as per your requirements and work accordingly. So Tableau is very important tool for data visualization, and if you're using Tableau, then certain steps like the outlier detection and all these things can be done automatically, so you can understand them. Okay, so we use R, Python and Tableau and SQL for that's our database. So this is all about the data analysis process today. We'll do the practicals very soon. Okay, till then, goodbye and happy learning.